So in 13.6, this is going to wrap up the unit that is really designed to get you ready for a performance test type of question. This unit test, as I said earlier, is going to actually have several different questions in which you're going to have to figure out volumes of different shapes. And it didn't matter if it was 13.5, which was on cigarette litter. We did volumes of cylinders there. We did volumes of cylinders and weight and conversions for Lift the Rainbow. In 13.6, we talked about the Guatemalan sinkhole. And I earlier showed you pictures of what that looked like. I actually went to the website and showed you what the sinkhole looked like, showed you somebody leaning over the edge, trying to see what it looked like on the inside, because it looks photoshopped, but after all the video evidence, I hope you realize this actually happened back in 2010. And so, if this happened in your neighborhood, which doesn't happen very often, I'm not trying to scare any of you. Sinkholes do happen. Primarily, this happened in 2010, and it's 2019 now, so we haven't really had one happen like that in at least 9 years. It doesn't happen very often at all. A lot of times it's because something was leaking and it causes the dirt to become more mushy and not as compacted, and that's why things just, crumble. It just falls in on it of itself. So, what you're going to do is, how much dirt or how much cubic space do we need to know to fill that thing up? How are we going to repair it? How are we going to make it level again? That's kind of what your job will be to do. So keep that in mind, that you're going to be using, let's estimate it by using the cylinder formula. You're going to use what we learned from CNN. CNN was probably the most reputable news story, news station that was there. There was a few of them. And so some of them estimated one number, others estimated another. Let's just pick one. CNN estimated it about 66 feet and 100 feet deep. And then you're going to need to know certain prices. The prices for a cubic foot of concrete cost about $4 for a cubic foot. But that does not count how much it takes in gas for you to pay for the company to bring it to the place. We don't know what it's like in Guatemala. I've been to a country in Central America, and getting concrete to some of these places isn't very easy. Some of which has to be done one bag at a time. And so it may not be like what we have here in Fresno and Clovis, where you can just call a cement company and a whole cement truck comes and dumps all the concrete in for you and mixes it for you. In the small third world countries like this, we don't know if they have that available. We don't know if they have to go and buy a bag at a time to do it. We don't know. We're just going to estimate it's $4 for the cement, not counting any transportation or labor to mix it, or machinery to mix it. We don't know if that's available. We're just saying $4 per cubic foot. Now, I personally put this in here, even though you don't need it for the worksheet. You don't need this for the worksheet. You don't need this for the worksheet. But the reason why I have it in your notes is because in my own personal life, I did have to pay for somebody to come to my front yard. I was having problems in my own house. And when the plumbing does not go out into the front yard and then go out to the city grid, your house starts to back up, is the word that it's called. Then what sometimes you have to do, you have to call a plumber. And I have done that. And I want to say it was about 7 years ago. I had to call a plumber and say, hey, I need some help. He says, okay, that's perfect. He put this machine inside my pipes. He put this a probe. That sounds so bad, but it's true. A probe, and he could see that there was a break in my sewage line. He then took a wand to find out how deep the pipe was underneath the ground. And he said that sewage pipe was 8 feet deep. And so that I could dig it by hand, but he recommended getting a backhoe. And so, needless to say, there was this gigantic tractor with a backhoe digging up, I can't tell you how much dirt, putting it onto my driveway, just so that he could get to a $15 part that he could fix the pipe to connect so that it would run like it's supposed to. Well, once the backhoe comes and puts the dirt back in the pile, it compacts more. My front yard looked like, I can't tell you, craters all over the place. Like it was not done, like he's not a landscaper, right? Like he's like, let me cover up the dirt. The plumber is, right? He fixed the pipe, everything was working, but then I have all this front yard that really was a mess. When I went to go buy more dirt, I had to go buy more dirt, and they don't sell it by cubic feet. In the United States, they sell it by cubic yards. As a matter of fact, there's a whole front loader, and they have buckets, and on the sides of the buckets that they go to scoop up the dirt to put in the back of your truck, it says this is half a yard. They have it measured by how many buckets the machine is doing. Some of them can pick a whole yard. Some of them can do 3.5 yards and stuff like that. So this is more of a United States thing. You should know how many cubic yards. And I say that just because I like to try to keep things real world for you. You never know if you might have to get some dirt to fill in because your house had some issues. That's what happened to me. That's real life. But in the worksheet, you're doing everything in cubic feet. Totally fine. Okay? So here's what they're going to ask you today. They're going to ask you, how much material, how many cubic feet will it take to fill that sinkhole? You're going to make a guess. What's too low? What's too high? I mean, that thing was deep, right? Like 100 feet deep, 66 feet wide. You're going to figure out how many cubic feet that is and make sure you have a guess. You know that too low might be 1 cubic feet. Oh, it's got to be way bigger than that. But how much is too much? For me, I didn't know if like 100,000 cubic feet is, that's a whole building went down that thing, right? So I went really high. I went like in the million range. And then you make a guess somewhere in between. The things you're going to need to know to calculate a more exact answer. You need to know what the radius of the sinkhole is, which I gave you. Paramo. What's up? Yep. Okay. Bye. So you need to know the radius of the sinkhole. You need to know the depth of the sinkhole, which I gave you at the top of your notes. And then you're just going to estimate it based off of the formulas that you have up here. Once you figure that out, they're going to come up with a solution that I think is kind of funny, but it's what they did in 2006 if you go into the article. If they fill the hole with concrete, how much would the concrete itself cost? That's why I gave you the cost. In 2006, apparently, there was another sinkhole somewhere in one of those countries, and they just filled it with concrete. That's not what I would do. I'd fill it with dirt. Dirt's cheap. You can go get dirt by moving dirt from here to there. Most people don't even charge you for dirt. They charge you for clean dirt, but not just dirt. So they're going to say, fill it with concrete. How much would that cost if they did 4 bags? And just think about, like, that's crazy. But, hey, that's what they're going to ask you to do. And you're going to perform all the calculations to figure it out. They do not ask you anything in cubic yards, but for me, I wanted to figure that out. So you have the rest of the time to start making those calculations happen.